The hotel receipt crumpled in my fist like Linda's lies. Conference in Boston, she'd said. 3 days of marketing seminars and team-building exercises. The receipt showed the Riverside Inn, downtown Portland, same dates. Funny how Boston moved 60 miles south without anyone telling the geography books. I'm Nick Easton, 34 years old, Uber Eats driver by necessity, former auto mechanic by choice until the garage closed. My wife Linda works marketing for Pinnacle Solutions, climbing that corporate ladder one rung at a time, stepping on whoever gets in her way. Including me, apparently. The morning she left, Linda packed like she was heading to Paris Fashion Week instead of boring business meetings. New lingerie still had tags. Perfume that cost more than my weekly gas money. Hair appointment the day before. Nails done. The works. You sure seem excited about spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations, I said, watching her stuff silk underwear into her overnight bag. It's important for my career, Nick. You wouldn't understand. That tone again. The one that made me feel about 2 inches tall. Greg says these conferences are where real networking happens. Greg Stiles, her boss, married guy with 2 kids and a house in the suburbs that probably cost more than I'd make in 5 years. VP of something important, according to Linda. VP of being a smug jerk, according to me. Right, Greg? I kept my voice neutral. He going to this conference too? Of course. He's presenting on market penetration strategies. She didn't even catch the irony. I found the receipt that night, digging through the kitchen trash for a grocery list I'd thrown away by mistake. Riverside Inn, Portland. Room for 2. 3 nights. My hands shook as I smoothed out the crumpled paper. The smart play would have been confronting her right then, demanding explanations. Instead, I did what I always do when my world starts falling apart. I went to work. Uber Eats keeps you moving. Pick up here, drop off there. Don't think too hard about anything else. The app pinged constantly that Thursday night. College kids wanting Chinese food, office workers pulling late shifts needing coffee and sandwiches, normal people living normal lives while mine imploded in slow motion. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Friday dragged by like a root canal. Linda texted twice. Conference going great, learning so much. Followed by, Greg's presentation was amazing. Each message felt like a small knife between my ribs. Ray stopped by Friday evening. My old buddy from the garage, still covered in grease despite showering twice. He brought beer and the kind of loyalty you can't buy. You look like someone stole your dog, he said, popping open a bottle. Worse, someone stole my wife. I showed him the receipt. Ray studied it like a forensic expert. Riverside Inn. That place is a dump. Hourly rates and broken dreams. Thanks. That makes me feel much better. Hey, at least she's cheating with style. Could have been the motel by the highway with the vibrating beds. Ray always knew how to lighten the mood, even when everything was going to pieces. We drank beer and watched baseball until he had to leave for his night shift at the parts warehouse. Saturday morning, Linda came home glowing, literally glowing, like she'd spent 3 days at a spa instead of sitting through marketing presentations. Her hair was perfect, skin radiant. She practically floated through the door. How was Boston? I asked. Incredible. So inspiring. Greg really opened my eyes to new possibilities. She kissed my cheek, and I smelled cologne that wasn't mine. I'm going to shower. This conference was exactly what I needed. I watched her disappear upstairs, humming some song I didn't recognize. The receipt burned in my pocket like evidence of a crime, which, in a way, it was. The plan formed slowly, like developing a photograph in an old darkroom. Sunday night, Linda worked late at the office, catching up after her conference, or so she said. I sat in our living room, staring at my phone, waiting for the perfect moment. Monday afternoon, It came. The Uber Eats app pinged with an order from Pinnacle Solutions. Chinese food for two. Kung Pao chicken, sweet and sour pork, fried rice. Enough for a romantic lunch between colleagues who'd just spent 3 days together in Boston. Except they'd been in Portland the whole time. My hands were steady as I accepted the order. Funny how calm you can feel when everything's about to change forever. The Golden Dragon restaurant knew me by name. I'd picked up dozens of orders there over the past year. Mrs. Chen handed me the bag with a smile. "Big order today, Nick. Someone's hungry." "Someone's about to lose their appetite," I muttered. The drive to Pinnacle Solutions took 15 minutes through downtown traffic. 15 minutes to rehearse what I'd say. 15 minutes to imagine Linda's face when she realized her perfect little secret was blown wide open. The office building was all glass and steel, reaching toward the sky like it was trying to escape the rest of us stuck down here in reality. Linda always said it made her feel important, working somewhere so impressive. I wondered if she'd feel the same way after today. I took the elevator to the 7th floor, carrying the Chinese food like a delivery driver should. Professional, invisible, just another working guy bringing lunch to people more important than himself. The hallway was quiet, most employees probably at their own lunch meetings or grabbing salads from the cafeteria downstairs. Linda had mentioned Greg's office was in the corner, with windows overlooking the harbor, prime real estate for a prime jerk. I knocked on the door marked Gregory Stiles, Vice President. "Come in," called a familiar voice. Not Greg's voice, Linda's voice. I opened the door and stepped into my worst nightmare made real. Greg stood behind his desk in boxers and a dress shirt, tie hanging loose around his neck. Linda sat in his leather chair wearing nothing but one of his company polo shirts, her hair messed up, lipstick smeared. They both froze when they saw me. Linda's face went white as printer paper. Greg's mouth opened and closed, like a fish gasping for air. "Uber Eats," I said, holding up the bag. "Someone ordered Chinese food." "Nick," Linda whispered, "what are you doing here?" "Delivering lunch, though it looks like you two already ate." I pulled out my phone, hitting the video record button. "How was Boston, honey?" "Turn that off." Greg stepped toward me, trying to look threatening in his underwear. "You can't film in here?" "Actually, I can. Public business, private building, but I'm making a legitimate delivery." I kept the camera steady, capturing Linda's horrified expression and Greg's ridiculous outfit. "So this is what market penetration strategies look like." Linda started crying. Real tears, not the fake ones she used when she wanted something. "Nick, please, let me explain." "Explain what? How Boston moved to Portland? How conference rooms turned into hotel rooms? How my wife became a cheating liar?" I set the food on Greg's desk, still filming. "Keep the change. Looks like you both need new jobs anyway." I walked out, leaving them scrambling to get dressed and figure out damage control. The elevator ride down felt like floating, like I'd been holding my breath for 3 days and finally remembered how to breathe. The video was perfect. Clear audio, good lighting, both of their faces easily recognizable. Linda in Greg's shirt, Greg in his boxers, both of them caught red-handed in the act of destroying my marriage. I sat in my car in the parking garage, watching the video 3 times before deciding what to do with it. The old Nick would have gone home and waited for Linda to come up with some explanation, some story about how this wasn't what it looked like. But the old Nick was gone. He'd been replaced by someone who'd finally had enough of being treated like a fool. I uploaded the video to my phone's cloud storage, made 3 backup copies, and started planning my next move. Linda wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that she wasn't the only one who could be strategic. The conference was over. The real education was just beginning. The group chat explosion started at 2:47 p.m. I know because I was sitting in the rusty Anchor diner, watching the notifications light up my phone like a Christmas tree. Chloe Martinez, the receptionist at Pinnacle Solutions, had forwarded my anonymous video to everyone in the company directory. "Holy cow," whispered Betty, the waitress who'd been serving coffee and gossip at the Anchor for 20 years. "Your phone's having a seizure." "Just work stuff," I lied, watching the message count climb past 50. I'd sent the video to 3 different people at Linda's company using fake email addresses. Chloe was the obvious choice. Young, social media obsessed, and completely incapable of keeping secrets. Tara Williams from HR was the second target. Linda's best friend and biggest enabler, always covering for her conferences and late nights. The third went to some random guy in accounting who I figured would spread it around the office like wildfire. Took exactly 43 minutes for the whole company to see my wife and her boss in their underwear. My phone buzzed with a call from Linda. I let it go to voicemail, then another, then another. The 4th time, I answered. "Nick, where are you?" Her voice was shaky, desperate. "We need to talk." "Nothing to talk about. I saw everything I needed to see. It's not what you think. Greg and I were just what? Discussing quarterly reports in your underwear? Reviewing marketing strategies while sitting in his lap?" Silence. Then crying. Linda always cried when she got caught doing something wrong, like tears would somehow reset the situation. "Please come home. Let me explain." "I am home. This diner's more honest than our house ever was." I hung up and ordered another cup of coffee. Betty refilled my mug without being asked. "Trouble with the missus?" "You could say that. My first husband cheated too. Caught him with the neighbor's wife in our own bed. You know what I did?" "What?" "Put sugar in his gas tank and super glue in his door locks. Then I took half his stuff and moved to Florida." She grinned. "Course, that was 30 years ago. These days, you got better options." She was right about that. Technology made revenge so much more creative. Ray showed up around 4, sliding into the booth across from me like we'd planned to meet. Word traveled fast in our neighborhood. "Heard you had an interesting lunch delivery," he said. "News travels fast." "Mrs. Flanagan told me. She heard it from her sister who works at the bank downtown. Apparently some videos making the rounds at that fancy office building. Mrs. Flanagan was our next-door neighbor, 83 years old and plugged into the gossip network like a telephone operator from the old days. If she knew about the video, half the city would know by dinner time." "Good," I said. "Linda always wanted to be famous." Ray ordered coffee and a slice of pie. "So, what's the plan? You filing for divorce?" "Eventually. But first, I want them to understand what it feels like to have your world turned upside down." "Them?" "Greg's married too. 2 kids. Wife named Patricia, who thinks her husband's working late to provide for the family." I showed Ray the video on my phone. "She deserves to know what he's really doing during those long days at the office." Ray watched the whole thing, shaking his head. "Man, they didn't even lock the door. How stupid can you be?" "Stupid enough to think I'd never find out. Stupid enough to use the company credit card for hotel rooms. Stupid enough to have their affair in Greg's office during business hours." "You got receipts for the hotel?" "Found them in Linda's purse this morning while she was showering. 3 different hotels over the past 2 months. Always the same dates as her supposed conferences." Ray whistled low. "You've been busy." "Just getting started." My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Nick Easton?" The voice was female, older, with the kind of authority that comes from years of dealing with corporate nonsense. "Depends who's asking." "This is Patricia Stiles. I believe you know my husband." My stomach dropped. "Mrs. Stiles, I saw the video, the whole thing. Someone forwarded it to me about an hour ago." Her voice was calm, controlled, dangerous. "I think we should meet." We agreed to meet at the Anchor in 30 minutes. Ray offered to stick around for moral support, but I figured this was something I needed to handle alone. Patricia Stiles arrived exactly on time, which shouldn't have surprised me. She was the kind of woman who ran her life like a military operation, perfectly dressed, every hair in place, carrying herself like she owned whatever room she walked into. She slid into the booth across from me and got straight to business. "How long have you known?" "About the affair? 3 days? About my wife being a liar? That's been building for a while. Greg's been having affairs for years. I've looked the other way because of the children. But this..." She pulled out her phone, showing me the video. "This is different. This is public humiliation. I'm sorry you had to find out this way." "No, you're not." She studied my face like she was reading a map. "You wanted me to find out. You wanted everyone to find out." I couldn't argue with that. "Good," she continued, "because I want them destroyed, both of them. And I think you're exactly the right person to help me do it." Patricia had done her homework. She knew about Greg's expense account irregularities, his pattern of promoting women he was sleeping with, his habit of using company resources for personal business. She also knew about Linda's fabricated conference reports, her inflated expense claims, and her tendency to take credit for other people's work. "I've been documenting everything for months," Patricia explained, "waiting for the right moment to act. Your video just moved up my timeline. What do you have in mind?" "Total destruction. Professional, personal, financial. I want them to lose everything." That seems fair. We spent the next hour planning. Patricia had connections throughout the city: lawyers, accountants, business owners, social media influencers. She knew how to destroy reputations and careers with surgical precision. I had something different to offer. I knew the streets, the working-class networks, the people who actually kept the city running. I could make sure the story spread beyond the corporate world into every diner, garage, and neighborhood bar in town. By 6 p.m., we had a strategy. Phase 1 was already complete. The video had destroyed their credibility at work and started the gossip mill churning. Phase 2 would target their finances. Patricia would file for divorce and go after Greg's assets. I'd do the same with Linda, but I'd also make sure her professional reputation was ruined beyond repair. Phase 3 was the public humiliation campaign. We'd make sure everyone in the city knew exactly what kind of people Greg and Linda really were. "There's one more thing," Patricia said as we prepared to leave. "Greg's been embezzling from the company, small amounts but consistent. I have documentation going back 18 months. "Why didn't you report it?" "Because I wanted to use it as leverage in the divorce, but now I think it would be more effective as part of our public campaign." I liked Patricia Stiles. She was cold, calculating, and completely ruthless. Everything Linda pretended to be, but with actual intelligence behind it. We shook hands in the parking lot, two people united by betrayal and a shared desire for justice. "This is going to be fun," Patricia said. "For us, maybe. Not so much for them." I drove home as the sun was setting, already planning tomorrow's moves. Linda's car was in the driveway, which meant she was probably inside crying and waiting for me to come home so she could try to explain everything away. But I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. I had work to do. I parked down the street and called Mrs. Flanagan. "Nick, dear, I heard about your troubles. How are you holding up?" "I'm fine, Mrs. Flanagan. Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you a favor." "Of course, dear. What do you need?" "I need you to tell everyone exactly what you saw in that video." Mrs. Flanagan's laugh was sharp as broken glass. "Oh, honey, I've been doing that all afternoon. By tomorrow morning, there won't be a person in this city who doesn't know what your wife's been up to." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see what happens when the story reaches Linda's mother." I hadn't thought about Linda's family. Her parents lived across town, pillars of their church community, the kind of people who cared deeply about reputation and respectability. This was going to be even better than I'd imagined. Linda's mother called her at 6:23 a.m. I know because Linda's phone was charging on the nightstand next to our bed, and the ringtone woke us both up. Linda grabbed it like it was on fire. "Hi, Mom. What? No, that's not. Mom, listen to me." I pretended to be asleep, while Linda tried to explain to her deeply religious mother why there was a video of her in her underwear circulating around the internet. The conversation lasted 23 minutes and ended with Linda crying into her pillow. "She hung up on me," Linda whispered. I didn't respond. Let her think I was still asleep. Let her suffer alone with the consequences of her choices. By 7 a.m., Linda was dressed and heading out the door. "I have to go to work early, try to fix this mess." "Good luck with that," I muttered after she left. The mess was just getting started. I spent the morning making coffee and checking social media. The video had spread beyond Pinnacle Solutions into the wider Portland community. Someone had posted it on the neighborhood Facebook groups. Another person shared it on Twitter with the hashtag #Pinnacle Scandal. A local gossip blog had picked it up with the headline, "Corporate Executives Caught in Compromising Position." Greg and Linda were famous, just like Linda always wanted. My phone rang around 9 a.m. Patricia Stiles. "Phase 2 is in motion," she said without preamble. "I filed for divorce this morning. My lawyer's already frozen Greg's accounts and put a hold on his company's stock options." That was fast. "I've been preparing for months. How's your end going?" "Linda's family disowned her. The whole city's talking about the video. I'd say we're right on schedule." "Good, because I just heard something interesting from my contact in HR." "What's that?" "Greg's trying to get you arrested for harassment and invasion of privacy. He's claiming you stalked him and filmed him without consent." I'd expected this. Desperate people do desperate things. Let him try. I was making a legitimate delivery. He opened the door and invited me in. Everything I filmed happened in plain sight. That's what I told my lawyer. But be careful. Greg's got connections in the police department. I thanked Patricia and hung up, then called Ray. "You free this morning? I might need backup." "Always. What's the plan?" "Greg's trying to have me arrested. I want to get ahead of that story." Ray picked me up in his beat-up pickup truck, and we drove to the police station downtown. I'd rather control the narrative than let Greg spin it his way. Detective Mike Morrison was an old customer from my Uber Eats route. I'd delivered late-night coffee to him during stakeouts, and we'd developed the kind of casual friendship that comes from repeated small interactions. "Nick," he said when I walked into his office, "I was wondering when you'd show up." "Someone filed a complaint?" "Gregory Stiles. Says you're stalking him and his employees. Says you broke into his office and filmed him without permission." I pulled out my phone and showed Morrison the delivery receipt from the Uber Eats app. I was making a delivery. He ordered food, I brought it. He opened the door and invited me in. Morrison studied the receipt, then watched the video. His expression didn't change, but I caught him trying not to smile. "This is your wife?" "Was my wife. I'm filing for divorce this afternoon." "And the guy in his underwear?" "Her boss. Also married. Also about to be divorced." Morrison leaned back in his chair. "So you accidentally discovered your wife's affair while making a legitimate food delivery?" "That's exactly what happened." "And you filmed it because I knew nobody would believe me otherwise. Linda's very good at making me look like the crazy one." Morrison nodded slowly. "I've seen the video, Nick. Half the department's seen it. Greg Stiles has bigger problems than harassment charges." "What do you mean?" "Internal Affairs is investigating expense account fraud at Pinnacle Solutions. Apparently, someone's been using company money for personal expenses. Hotel rooms, restaurants, gifts, the kind of things you might buy for someone you're having an affair with." I tried to look surprised. "Really?" "Really. My advice? Stay away from Greg Stiles and let this play out naturally. Don't give him any ammunition to use against you." Ray and I left the police station feeling pretty good about things. Greg's harassment complaint was going nowhere, and the embezzlement investigation would keep him busy for weeks. But I wasn't done yet. We drove to the Anchor for lunch and found the place buzzing with conversation. Every table was talking about the video, speculating about what would happen next, sharing their own stories about cheating spouses and workplace affairs. Betty brought us coffee without being asked. "You're famous, honey. Half my customers are asking if I know you personally." "What are you telling them?" "That you're a good man who got dealt a bad hand. That your wife's a fool for throwing away someone loyal and hard-working." She patted my shoulder. "Don't you worry. This whole city's on your side." That afternoon, I drove my usual Uber Eats route, delivering food and listening to customers talk about the scandal. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had advice. Everyone wanted to know if I was the guy from the video. I played it modest, letting them draw their own conclusions. By evening, I was something I'd never been before, a local celebrity, the working-class hero who'd exposed the corporate cheaters. Linda came home around 8, looking like she'd been through a blender. Her eyes were red from crying, her hair was a mess, and she moved like every step hurt. "We need to talk," she said. "Now you want to talk?" "Please, Nick, just listen to me." We sat in our living room, the same room where we'd watched movies and planned our future back when I thought we had one. Linda perched on the edge of the couch like she was ready to run. "It started 6 months ago," she began. "Greg and I were working late on the Morrison account and one thing led to another. Skip the romance novel version. I don't care how it started. I was going to end it. After this week, I was going to tell Greg it was over. Convenient timing. It's true. I realized I was making a mistake. I love you, Nick. I want to save our marriage." I studied her face, looking for any sign of sincerity. All I saw was desperation and fear. "You love me?" "Yes." "Then why did you spend 6 months lying to me? Why did you make me feel crazy for suspecting something was wrong? Why did you throw away 8 years of marriage for a guy in a cheap suit?" "I don't know. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake." "No, Linda. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk at the grocery store. This was a choice. You chose to cheat. You chose to lie. You chose to humiliate me." She started crying again, but this time it felt calculated, like she was trying to manipulate me into forgiveness. "What do you want me to do? I'll do anything to fix this." "It's too late for that. Please, Nick, don't give up on us." I looked around our living room, at the furniture we'd bought together, the pictures of happier times, the life we'd built that was now completely destroyed. "I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. You can stay here until you find somewhere else to go. But we're done." Linda's face crumpled. "This is because of that stupid video, isn't it? You're punishing me because everyone saw what happened." "I'm leaving you because you're a cheater and a liar. The video just made it impossible for you to deny it anymore." She ran upstairs, slamming the bedroom door behind her. I heard her on the phone, probably calling Tara or one of her other enablers to complain about how unreasonable I was being. I made myself a sandwich and ate it standing in the kitchen, planning tomorrow's moves. The divorce papers were just the beginning. Patricia and I had bigger plans for Greg and Linda. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Chloe from Pinnacle Solutions. Can we meet? I have information you might want to hear." Chloe Martinez, the receptionist who'd forwarded my video to everyone in the company. I wondered what she wanted. "When and where?" I texted back. "Tomorrow lunch, the coffee shop on Market Street. Come alone." This was getting interesting. Chloe had always been friendly during my delivery runs, but we'd never had a real conversation. If she wanted to meet privately, she probably had inside information about Greg and Linda's situation at work. I texted back, "I'll be there." Whatever Chloe had to tell me, I had a feeling it was going to make things even more complicated for Greg and Linda, and I was perfectly fine with that. Chloe Martinez looked nervous as she stirred sugar into her coffee. We'd found a corner table at Bean There, the little coffee shop on Market Street that catered to office workers and college students. She kept glancing around like she expected Greg or Linda to walk through the door. "Thanks for meeting me," she said. I wasn't sure if you'd want to talk. Depends what you want to talk about. Chloe was maybe 25, fresh out of college, with the kind of optimism that hadn't been beaten down by years of corporate politics. She'd always been friendly when I delivered food to Pinnacle Solutions, treating me like a person instead of invisible help. I know things, she said, about Greg and Linda, about what's been going on at the company. What kind of things? The affair's been going on longer than 6 months. I've been covering for them since last spring, booking conference rooms for their meetings, handling their travel arrangements, making sure their schedules lined up. I felt my jaw clench. You helped them? I didn't have a choice. Greg's my boss. Linda's his favorite. If I didn't do what they wanted, I'd lose my job. But now you're willing to talk. Because they threw me under the bus. Chloe's voice got harder. Yesterday, when that video started spreading, Greg called me into his office. He blamed me for the security breach, said I was responsible for not protecting his privacy, even though he's the one who left his door unlocked while screwing around with a married woman. Exactly. Then Linda cornered me in the bathroom and accused me of deliberately forwarding the video to hurt her reputation. I sipped my coffee and waited for her to continue. They're both liars and hypocrites, and I'm tired of protecting them. So what do you want from me? Chloe pulled out her phone and opened the voice recorder app. I want to tell you everything I know, and I want you to make sure the right people hear it. For the next hour, Chloe laid out the whole sordid story. Greg and Linda's affair had started in February, not 6 months ago like Linda claimed. They'd used company resources for personal trips, charged romantic dinners to the business account, and manipulated work schedules to create opportunities for their meetings. But the really interesting part was what Chloe knew about the embezzlement. Greg's been skimming money from client accounts for over a year, she explained. Small amounts, spread across multiple projects. He thought nobody would notice. How do you know? Because I process the expense reports. I see every receipt, every charge, every transfer. Greg's been stealing maybe $2,000 a month. Why didn't you report it? To who? He's the VP. Linda's his ally in management. Tara in HR covers for both of them. I'm just a receptionist. Nobody would believe me. But you kept records. Screenshots, copies of receipts, bank statements. I've been documenting everything since I figured out what was happening. Chloe showed me her phone, scrolling through dozens of photos and documents. Hotel charges that didn't match business travel, restaurant bills for expensive dinners during supposed client meetings that never happened, cash withdrawals from company accounts for mysterious expenses. This is enough to put Greg in prison, I said. That's the idea. Why are you giving this to me instead of going to the police yourself? Chloe's smile was sharp as a knife. Because I want Greg and Linda to know it came from you. I want them to understand that their actions have consequences. I liked this girl. She was smarter and tougher than anyone gave her credit for. There's something else, Chloe continued. Linda's been taking credit for other people's work. The Morrison account that supposedly made her career, that was actually developed by Jennifer Walsh in creative. Linda just presented it after Jennifer left the company. Can you prove that? Jennifer kept copies of everything. She's working at a competitor now, and she's been waiting for the right moment to expose Linda's plagiarism. Sounds like that moment just arrived. We spent another 30 minutes going through Chloe's evidence. She had enough documentation to destroy both Greg and Linda professionally and possibly send Greg to prison for embezzlement. What do you want in return? I asked. A good reference when I quit next week, and maybe some help getting the story out to the right people. I think I can arrange that. I gave Chloe Patricia Stiles' contact information and suggested she reach out about a job opportunity. Patricia's divorce lawyer would love to get his hands on evidence of Greg's embezzlement, and Patricia had connections throughout the city's business community. After Chloe left, I sat in the coffee shop planning my next moves. The evidence she'd provided was explosive, but I needed to be strategic about how to use it. My phone rang. Linda, where are you? she demanded. Having coffee. Why? Greg wants to meet with both of us. He says he can fix this whole situation. Fix it how? I don't know. But he's got a plan. Can you meet us at his office at 3? I almost laughed. Greg wanted to meet at his office, the same place where I'd caught them in their underwear 2 days ago. The man had either incredible nerve or no sense of irony. Sure, I said. I'll be there. Thank you, Nick. I know we can work this out. We'll see. I hung up and called Patricia. Greg wants to meet with Linda and me this afternoon. Any idea what he's planning? Damage control. He's probably going to try to buy you off or threaten you into keeping quiet. Too late for either of those strategies. Way too late. But it might be interesting to hear what he has to say. Can you record the meeting? Probably. Why? Because whatever Greg's planning, it's likely to be illegal, unethical, or both, and we can use that against him. I spent the afternoon preparing for the meeting. I charged my phone, tested the voice recorder app, and mentally rehearsed how to stay calm while Greg tried to manipulate the situation. At 2:45, I walked into the Pinnacle Solutions building for what I hoped would be the last time. The security guard recognized me from my delivery runs and waved me through without checking ID. The elevator ride to the 7th floor felt different this time. Instead of being the invisible delivery guy, I was the man who'd exposed the company's biggest scandal. Several employees stared at me as I walked through the office, some with curiosity, others with barely concealed amusement. Greg's office door was closed. I knocked and waited. Come in, Greg called. He was fully dressed this time, wearing an expensive suit and his most professional expression. Linda sat in a chair across from his desk, looking small and defeated. Nick, Greg stood and extended his hand. Thank you for coming. I ignored the handshake and took the chair next to Linda. Let's get this over with, I said. Greg sat back down and put on his best executive smile. I think we can resolve this situation in a way that benefits everyone. I'm listening. What happened between Linda and me was a mistake, a moment of poor judgment that we both regret deeply. Moment? Try 6 months. Greg's smile flickered. Regardless of the timeline, we want to make this right. I'm prepared to offer you a substantial settlement in exchange for your discretion. How substantial? $50,000. Cash. No questions asked. I pretended to consider the offer while my phone recorded every word. What would I have to do? Sign a non-disclosure agreement. Delete all copies of the video. Agree not to discuss this matter with anyone, including my divorce lawyer, especially your divorce lawyer. Linda leaned forward. Nick, this could be a fresh start for both of us. You could pay off your debts, maybe go back to school, find a better career. The condescension in her voice was breathtaking. Even now, even after being caught red-handed, she still thought she was better than me. 50,000, I repeated. That's a lot of money. It is, Greg agreed. More than you'd make driving for Uber Eats in 2 years. True, but here's the thing, Greg. I'm not interested in your money. His smile disappeared. What do you want? I want everyone to know exactly what kind of people you and Linda really are. I want your wife to take you for everything you're worth. I want Linda's family to understand why their daughter is a disappointment. I want your co-workers to remember this scandal every time they see your faces. That's not very smart, Nick. Greg's voice got harder. I have connections in this city. I can make your life very difficult. You mean more difficult than discovering my wife's been cheating on me for months? I mean professionally difficult, personally difficult, legally difficult. I stood up, still recording. Is that a threat, Greg? It's a promise. Linda grabbed my arm. Please, Nick, just take the money. Let us move on with our lives. I pulled away from her. You should have thought about that before you decided to destroy our marriage. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Greg, you might want to check with your accountant. I hear Internal Affairs is asking questions about your expense reports. His face went white. What are you talking about? Have a great afternoon, both of you. Enjoy explaining this conversation to your lawyers. I left them sitting in Greg's office, probably panicking about how much I knew and what I planned to do with the information. The truth was, I was just getting started. The divorce papers hit Linda like a slap across the face. I watched her read through them at our kitchen table, her expression shifting from disbelief to anger to something that looked almost like relief. "You're really doing this," she said. "Did you think I was bluffing?" "I hoped you'd come to your senses." I poured myself coffee and sat across from her. 3 days since the video, 2 days since Greg's pathetic bribe attempt, and Linda still seemed to think this was all some kind of misunderstanding that could be smoothed over with the right combination of tears and manipulation. "I want the house," she said, scanning the legal documents. "You can want whatever you like. Doesn't mean you'll get it. I've been paying half the mortgage for 3 years. And I've been paying the other half while you spent your money on hotels and fancy lingerie for your boyfriend." Linda's lawyer had advised her to ask for spousal support, half our assets, and exclusive use of the house during the divorce proceedings. My lawyer had laughed when he read her demands. "She's got some nerve," he'd said. "Cheating wives don't usually get to make demands." My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. "Turn on Channel 8 News at noon." It was 11:58. I grabbed the remote and switched to the local news station. "Coming up after the break," the anchor announced, "a Portland business executive faces embezzlement charges after an internal investigation reveals missing funds." Linda looked up from the divorce papers. "What's that about?" "Sounds like someone's having a bad day." The commercial break felt like an hour. When the news returned, Greg's corporate headshot filled the screen while the anchor read the story. "Gregory Stiles, vice president of Pinnacle Solutions, has been arrested on charges of embezzling over $30,000 from company accounts. The investigation began after anonymous tips led auditors to examine expense reports and bank records dating back 18 months. Linda's face went chalk white. "They arrested Greg?" "Looks that way." The news report continued with details about Greg's scheme: falsified expense reports, unauthorized cash withdrawals, personal charges on company credit cards. Everything Chloe had documented was now public record. Sources within the company say Stiles used the stolen funds to finance an extramarital affair with a subordinate employee, the anchor continued. That employee, Nick Easton, was terminated yesterday for violations of company policy. Linda made a sound like she'd been punched in the stomach. "You got fired?" I asked. "Yesterday afternoon, right after you left Greg's office." Her voice was barely a whisper. "They said I was complicit in the embezzlement." "Were you?" "No. I mean, Greg paid for dinners and hotels, but I didn't know he was stealing the money." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The news report wrapped up with footage of Greg being led away in handcuffs, his expensive suit rumpled, his face hidden behind his hands. The reporter mentioned that his wife had filed for divorce and was cooperating with investigators. Patricia had played her cards perfectly. My phone rang. Chloe. "Are you watching the news?" she asked. "Just saw it. Nice work." Patricia's lawyer was very interested in my documentation. Turns out Greg was stealing more than I thought. They found evidence going back 2 years. "What about Linda?" "She's claiming ignorance, but the investigators aren't buying it. She signed off on half those expense reports." After Chloe hung up, I looked at Linda across the kitchen table. She was crying again, but these weren't manipulative tears. These were the tears of someone whose entire life had just collapsed. "What am I going to do?" she whispered. "Find a job, find a place to live, figure out how to rebuild your reputation. Nobody's going to hire me after this." "Maybe you should have thought about that before you started sleeping with your boss." Linda's phone rang constantly over the next few hours, reporters wanting statements, former co-workers offering fake sympathy, her mother calling to scream about the family's ruined reputation. I listened to Linda try to explain herself over and over, each conversation more desperate than the last. She'd lost her job, her lover, her family's respect, and now her marriage. The perfect life she'd been building had crumbled in less than a week. Around 5 p.m., Ray showed up with beer and Chinese takeout. "Figured you might be hungry," he said, unpacking containers on the kitchen table. Linda had retreated to the bedroom to cry in private, leaving Ray and me to eat in peace. "Saw the news," Ray said. "Greg looked real good in handcuffs. Patricia's thorough. I'll give her that. What's next?" "Linda moves out. Divorce gets finalized. I try to figure out what comes after." Ray opened 2 beers and handed me one. "You know, a month ago I would have said you and Linda would work things out. You seemed solid. Shows how much we know about anything." "You regret it? The video, the investigation, all of it?" I thought about that while I ate sweet and sour pork. Did I regret destroying Linda's life? Did I feel guilty about Greg's arrest? Did I wish I'd just walked away and tried to rebuild quietly? "No," I said finally. "They made their choices. I just made sure those choices had consequences." "Fair enough." Mrs. Flanagan knocked on the door around 7, carrying a casserole dish and wearing her best concerned neighbor expression. "I brought tuna noodle casserole," she announced. "Figured you might need some comfort food." "Thank you, Mrs. Flanagan. That's very kind." "How are you holding up, dear?" "I'm managing." She glanced toward the stairs where Linda was presumably still hiding. "And how is she taking all this?" "About as well as you'd expect." Mrs. Flanagan nodded sagely. "Pride comes before a fall, as they say. That girl always thought she was too good for the rest of us. She's learning otherwise. Good. Maybe this will teach her some humility." After Mrs. Flanagan left, I sat on my front porch and watched the neighborhood settle into evening routines. Kids playing in yards, parents coming home from work, normal families living normal lives. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Jennifer Walsh. Chloe gave me your contact info. I have information about Linda's plagiarism that might interest you." Jennifer Walsh, the creative director whose work Linda had stolen. Another piece of Linda's carefully constructed career built on lies and theft. I texted back, "I'm listening. Can we meet tomorrow? I have documentation that proves Linda stole my Morrison account presentation." "What do you want in return?" "Just to see Linda get what she deserves." I was starting to realize that Linda had made enemies throughout her career. People she'd stepped on, lied to, stolen from, and dismissed. They'd all been waiting for someone like me to give them an opportunity for payback. "Tomorrow lunch, Bean There Coffee Shop on Market Street." "I'll be there." Linda came downstairs around 9, looking like she'd been through a war. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her hair was a mess, and she moved like every step hurt. "I'm going to stay at Tara's for a few days," she said. "Give us both some space." Probably a good idea. She packed a suitcase with shaking hands, throwing clothes and toiletries together without any organization. The confident, put-together woman I'd married was gone, replaced by someone broken and desperate. "Nick," she said as she reached the front door. "I know you hate me right now, but I need you to know something." "What?" "I really was going to end it with Greg. After this week, I was going to tell him it was over and try to save our marriage." I looked at her tear-stained face and saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse. Not self-pity or manipulation, but actual regret for the pain she'd caused. "Maybe you were," I said, "but it's too late now." "I know. I just wanted you to know that I loved you. I still love you." Love isn't enough, Linda. Trust matters. Respect matters. Loyalty matters. You threw all of that away for a guy who's now sitting in jail. She nodded and walked out the door, carrying her suitcase like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I watched her drive away, then locked the door and poured myself a drink. Tomorrow I'd meet with Jennifer Walsh and add another nail to Linda's professional coffin. Next week, the divorce proceedings would begin in earnest. But tonight, for the first time in months, I was alone in my own house, without having to wonder where my wife really was or who she was really with. It felt like freedom.